Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're looking at the advanced Super Veritech, our standard Super Veritech that we normally see. Yesterday, we had the dual Super Veritech. Um, so, this is what we would normally see when we did finally get to the Super Veritech in the Robotech slash Macross saga. All right, this is a United Earth Robotech Defense Force. Its starfighter scale has a length of roughly 14 meters. I don't know if we really hit that on yesterday's, but I think maybe I skipped over it. So if I did, I apologize. I think the length should be the same. It's just that we had the dual cannons instead of just the single cannon over the right shoulder. Okay, going from there, we have a crew of one, cargo capacity of 40 kilograms. Same as before, we have consumables for about 1 week with survival packs. There's no cost on this, there's no hyperdrive on this. There is a nav computer, but remember, this is only for sublight speeds at short range. These were not intended for doing the hyperdrive or um, the jump drive that Robotech had. We do have a maneuverability of 60 in jet mode, 4D in Gerwalk mode, and 2D in Betaloid mode. It has a space of 10 in jet mode, 8 in Guardian mode, and 6 in Battleoid mode. Again, this is all pretty much the same as what we had before. Our atmospheric speed is 1,200 kilometers an hour for jet mode, 1,500 kilometers an hour in Gerwalk mode, and 1,000 kilometers an hour in Battleoid mode. Has a hull of 60 plus 2. That's because of the extra armor that's on here. Has no shields. Our sensors are as passively scanning a 2 kilometer radius at 0D bonus, a active scan at 3.5 kilometers at a 1D bonus, an active search out to 4 kilometers at a 2D bonus, and a focus of 200 meter at 3D bonus. Okay, going for our weapons, we have two jet fighter high powered lasers. These are linked. These are, again, to point out if you're watching this. If you're not, this is on the forward part of the fuselage here, in front of the cockpit. We do have protrusions here. That's our guns. Has a damage of 6D with a fire control of 3D. They can do a short burst, counts as one attack per shot taken. We do have the head mounted lasers. So for the VT1D, we have two lasers, and then one laser on the VF1A, two for the VF1J, and four for the VF1S. Now this is the VF1S that is shown here. As you can see, the head is sitting there with the four lasers, the antenna array that are also lasers as well. Um, let's see. These are going to be kind of considered on a turret, although the head kind of locks in place there. Fire control is a 4D, and the VT1D, both seats can use the laser, um, or seats can use one laser each, kind of added that way. Has damage of 1D for the 1A, 2D for the 1J and 1D, and the 4D for the 1S because there's four of them. Okay, and it has rate of fire, continuous beam on a stationary target, deals double damage, and uses fire control. Use against moving targets does normal damage and does not have fire control. Uh, Used primarily as a cutting tool, but can also be used in combat and in all transformable modes. We do have 6 missile hardpoints on the wings. Fire control is going to be a 2D for those. Space range, we do have different ranges depending on whether you have the long, medium, or short range missiles. Um, Damage varies. Typically, when I was looking at the chart, uh, for the most part, it's all 8D damage. It's just really the length of the missile for the range that we get out of the missiles. Um, and we could either have the missiles in uh, three missile clusters. I believe they had like 5 pack missiles. Um, Kind of all depends on how you're loading it out. And to put it in this same perspective, think of like when you see our modern F-16s, F-18s, look at the old F-14s, your helicopters, all that stuff. These are the hard points that they're talking about. And I would say if you're looking at a shorter range missile, you might be able to have a bigger pack. And the reason why I say that is because it may have the same size warhead on there that can do 8D damage, but because the missile doesn't have as much propellant to get it out as far, you might be able to have more missiles in a certain pack. So if you had the short range missiles, maybe that's in a 6 pack. Uh, and if you had the long range missiles, maybe that's only a cluster of 3. And maybe the medium would be in a 4 pack or something like that. I think you get the point with that. All right. So, and of course, the rate of fire, any number of up to full payload. These hard points can carry 6 capital scale missiles, 1 hard point, or 12 starfighter scale missiles, 2 per hard point. That's the same thing he's trying to go to. If you see the old models of this and all that, they did have different kind of packs, whether it was a squared one, or it came down as a cluster, and it did have like a little tree for 3 individual missiles. So please keep all that in mind. It's all a game. It's meant for fun. So, for me, I try not to get too caught up into all that. I like to just keep things simple, and I've said this many times before. I would probably just hit a middle of the road and say that you know it's maybe 6 4 packs. That would be probably me just trying to make things easy, just so when I'm playing with my group, it's just an easy thing to keep track of, and I don't worry too much about the ammo on a lot of this stuff. And I've said that before. We're here to have fun. We don't usually get together all that often, so anything that lessens spending time figuring all that stuff out. That's me and my group. But everybody plays differently. If you have a group that can get together on a regular basis, and that's something you want to stress because it just adds that tension. Do you use them or not use them? I understand all of that. I really do. It's just I don't get that time really to get together with the guys. So I keep mine very simple and very basic for that big reason. We do have the gun pod. So the gun pod is going to be underslung underneath the fighter. So in jet mode, we have a 3D for fire control, 2D in guardian mode, and 1D for battleoid mode. Damage is going to be 3D for a short burst, 4D or 6D for a long burst, and 9D for a full round burst. Rate of fire is 10 rounds per short burst, 20 rounds for a long burst, and 40 rounds for a full burst. And if you're keeping track of ammo, you only have around 200 rounds per clip. Now, it can be reloaded when you're in battleoid mode. Uh, I would even say Gerwalk mode, but I will say if you're in your fighter mode, probably not so much because you're going to need that hand to kind of reload it like a regular rifle. So just throwing that out there. We do have 4 4-arm medium lasers or medium range missile launchers, 2 per arm. Of course, these are going to be kind of considered as a turret for the Gerwalk and Battleoid mode. Otherwise, they are underslung as they fold up underneath uh, the fighter. Has a fire control of 2D, and of course, all depending on what missiles you're using, has ammo of 4 missiles. We have the missile launcher pod. Now, this would be the one on the left side, and that's going to have a fire control of 2D. Fire rate is going to be either 2, 4, or 8 missiles, and you're going to have about 20 missiles at short range. Let's see, we also have the double barrel cannon over on the right side, opposite of the left mounted booster. That's going to have the fire control of 2D, has a damage of 8D. For whatever reason, if one of your laser cannons happens to go out and you're only shooting one of them, it would only be a 7D. If you're doing hand to hand combat, we do have a punch of 4D in Guardian mode. In Battleoid mode, it would be a 6D. A kick in Battleoid mode would be a 6D. A stomp in Battleoid is going to be a 4D, limited to targets that are 12 feet or less, 12 feet tall or less. Um, Body flip slash block is going to be a 4D in Battleoid mode. All right, so Battleoid Soldier mode. So you can use a pilot's own personal combat skills, uh, such as brawl, martial arts, brawling, parry, dodge, melee combat, when you are in Battleoid mode. For the gun pod or other acquired weapons, you can use your blaster or even thrown weapons skill on your actual character. Now, in Guardian Gerwalk mode, you may use the same skills, but at half the skill dice, except melee combat, melee parry, sneak, and thrown weapons. The Guardian mode may attack in hand to hand, but only to punch, brawl, or block and attack, which would be brawling parry, as shown above. While the Guardian may lack much of the abilities of the Jet or the Battleoid mode, it can hover in place. I'm sorry. The jet cannot hover, perform vertical takeoffs or landings, and skim across the ground. So in your Gerwalk, because you have the legs folded down underneath you, and your main thrusters are there, you can kind of hover around and all that. So it gives you a very nice extra ability there. Okay, so the other equipment that we have on here, we have a fuel capacity with a protoculture. You can do a continuous burn for about 6 years. Otherwise, it has a lifespan of about 12 years before it needs to be refueled in your common day-to-day tasks. But if you're using consistently, you're good for about 6 years. Um, at least that's what we were seeing on the other one. Half if in constant use, so it can have a constant burn indefinitely for about 6 years. Radar, we have a radar attachment. They did come out with those. You can use your radar to scan out to about 200 miles. Can track up to 48 targets. We have a motion detector slash collision warning system that was shown in the cartoon, and that has a close range of 200 feet or 61 meters. We have a radio video communications console on board, uh, laser communications, long range, directional line of sight. That's what the antenna were kind of used for as well. That's why I always call it the antennas as well as the lasers. We have a laser targeting system with a range of about 200 miles. Combat computer calculates, stores, and transmits data to the cockpit computer screen or heads up display. We have external audio pickup, sound amplification system. We have a loudspeaker for external use, amplifies the pilot's voice up to 90 decibels. We have an external video surveillance system. Um, we have a telescopic optical enhancement uh, for a range up to 1,600 feet or 488 meters. Shoulder headlight spotlight in the Battleoid mode. Hydraulic pilot chair that can actually come up out of the Battleoid. Um, We have the ejector seat for an emergency so the pilot themselves can eject. We also have a utility arm set, which has small retractable arm shrouded uh, in right forearm to perform delicate work and effect repairs. Each arm has a strength slash hull of 5D speeder scale and allows for the repair skill as well as other skills that could be applied through use of these or arms outside the Veritech, perhaps even computer operation, repair, or demolitions. It's up to the game master's discretion. There is a self destruct mode for a last ditch effort. There's a heat slash radiation shield that will go over the cockpit. We have an independent oxygen and circulation system, and the pilot's compartment, the very front of the fighter, can be detached as an escape pod and can actually be attached to the forearm of other Veritech fighters for an emergency escape. Let's see. So the Super Veritech slash Valkryie variant never appeared in Robotech, which I think it did. But it was shown in Macross. Do you remember Love movie? Um, it is the same as the Super Valkyrie, but changes out one of the booster pod missile launchers for the double-barreled beam cannon, um, usually saved for proven aces and officers. So there we have it. With that, it's a beautiful, beautiful fighter. Uh, Hopefully, we can get this into I don't know, maybe like a Star Wars New Republic Navy or something. But you know, having this stuff and just saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to use the Star Wars role playing game for whatever. Being a Robotech or I've been doing the GI Joe vehicles or even the Star Trek or whatever. It's very adaptable for it and it works very well. We don't really need to change anything, or if you do, it's very minor changes that have to be done here and there. But for the most part, it all works very well. It's a simplistic system. That's one of the reasons why I really fell in love with it years ago. And still today, I really prefer the system because it makes it easier as a game master, especially seeing that I'm the one with the books. That it makes it easier for trying to level other characters. My players, they can level their characters on the fly. And again, there's rules there. You're only supposed to raise things up into a certain level in between games or whatever. And like I said before, I have a hard time trying to get the guys over because, just trying to work through everybody's schedule and all that. It gets to be a headache for me. Now, I understand there are plenty of groups out there that they can get together at a regular basis, and if you're able to do that and you want to put certain limitations as to how fast you can level up, by all means, you have the time to do that. But it's just for someone like me, I just don't have that time. So that's why, when I present this stuff and I add that in there, it's because I don't get that extra time. So with that, thanks so very much for stopping by. Thanks for listening to me ramble on and showing you hopefully something fun to add into a game of your own choosing, however you want to do it. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video.